Hey up, I'm Guy Kestevan, the Tester Man, and this is the new Exposure Race 19. And this is literally the third time I've shot this review, because Exposure have such a loyal following in the UK that criticising one of their lights feels a bit like having a go at the royal family. However, a bit like the royal family, some of the parts of it just aren't up to the job, and some of the figures that Exposure claim for this light are just nonsense. So let's start on the positives. This race is designed as a gravel XC light, so it has a deliberately focused 2 LED beam. It's a 14-degree spot beam, and that gives it a really healthy throw down the trail, and it's a really good even beam. However, there's very little peripheral coverage coming out of it, so as soon as you get onto techie, twisty single track, it's a bit like running through the Blair Witch Project. You're going to get things coming at you late on, and if your steering's flicking around, it's going to get pretty sketchy pretty soon. So it really needs running with one of the Exposure's helmet lights. You know, I've got the joystick test coming up, or you can use the Diablo or the Zenith to try and get some sort of what happens next awareness, unless you are just using it on less technical straight trails or on courses where you've already done several laps at a 24-hour race or something like that, which kind of is where it's designed for, because there is a Max D and there is a 6-pack which have a wider beam and a lot more power. However, Exposure didn't want to send me those lights for test this year because they've already got other people testing them. So back to the race. It's an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, and you get 7 different modes to help you eke out the battery life on that. You get 3 reflex modes and you get 4 steady modes. Now, the idea with reflex is you get accelerometers inside the light which sort of sense any movement and translate that into whether you're going fast or whether you're going down sort of rocky terrain, and give you full power, which is 2,680 lumens in this light. And then when you back off a bit, when you're riding more gentle terrain, it toggles right back to as much as a 314 lumen low to save battery life when you're just cruising or when you're stationary. And in theory, Exposure says that gives you a 3-hour runtime in the reflex mode at its most powerful. However, that reflex mode does not kick in until you've been stationary for over a minute. And I mean totally stationary. Even at walking pace on very smooth climbs, it's still running full chat. And that only lasts for an hour and 20 minutes before it hits the reserve tank and effectively shuts off. Now that's a big difference between 3 hours and 1 hour 20. And I think that's not only misleading, but it's also potentially dangerous as well. So really take that reflex mode with a pinch of salt, and be prepared to use the button on the back, that big shiny stainless steel button on the back, to toggle the light yourself. But even then, 314 lumens is absolutely bugger all. You'll really be like searching around trying to see a damn thing with that. So I really don't think they've got the levels right there at all. And then if you run it in one of the 4 steady modes, you can see this is in mode 4 here. That gives you 2 hours of constant runtime, but that's only 1,800 lumens. And bear in mind, this is a 300 quid light. That's really not a lot of power for your money. And for 8,000 milliamp hour battery, it's not even running that long either. And also in this mode, which is the most powerful of the steady modes, if you knock it down to that secondary setting, that only gives you 588 lumens. So again, really dim. So I just don't know why Exposure haven't put like a 2,000 lumen, 1,000 lumen setting in there, or even just like a 3-step one. So, 2,000, 1,500, because, they're all preset. You can see them listed on the bottom of the light there. They're all preset, and there's no way of actually changing them with an app. I mean, I'm pretty sure Exposure did have an app, so you could custom change run times at one point, but that seems to have fallen by the wayside. And also, while this new ASD Plus OLED screen is a lot easier to read, you can see it gives an accurate runtime. I mean, it's accurate overall. It kind of wobbles. Halfway through your runtime, it will often say you've got more life left than you think you have, but by the end, it kind of levels out again. So in the grand scheme of things, it's fine. And it's a lot easier to read, and it's coloured, and it tells you what mode you're in, which is all very good. It is a bit bright. I mean, it's not too bright because it's on the back of the light. So it's not a massive glare, but on the flip side, because it's on the back of the light, you can't read it while you're going along. So again, you're going to have to stop, take a look at your battery time just to check that, or check what mode you're in. But then to be fair, the changes in mode are so dramatic, you're going to know whether you're running full power or not. But one real positive change on this 19 and all the latest generation Exposure lights is the switch to USB-C. So not only is it much easier to charge, you don't need a dedicated charger, you do actually get a nice plug-in charger with a fancy cable with LEDs on, like your local boy racer. But it also means that you can use this as a power bank as well to charge other devices, and it also works for pass-through charging. So you can stick a power bank into the back of this and actually juice up your lights as you're going along. So that's a really, really useful feature for endurance cyclists. But again, Exposure say that it'll charge to almost full in 2 hours using this charger, and again, that isn't really true. Certainly not in my experience. Maybe I've just got a Duff model, but it's nearly taking double that to get fully back up to charge. Still quick for a battery of this capacity. That's still quick, and it's a lot faster than the old charge rates on Exposure lights. But it's just, again, it's not the numbers that Exposure are claiming in real world testing that I've been doing. Back to the positives. It's really nicely put together. You can see you've got this really nice laser etch logo on the side. It's IPX67 waterproof, which is really good. You know, so basically it's absolutely fine in any weather you're going to come across on the trail. And even if you quickly accidentally drop it in a river while fording something, then it's probably going to be okay. And it's IK09 impact tested as well. So if you drop it, it's probably going to be fine again. Although, as you can see, where I've dropped it there while using it, it's taken a little dent on that ring, on the cooling fins here. Because again, the whole front end of it, these rings, there's actually some pass-through vents on them to help it cool down. And it's very, very good at holding a high intensity, even on relatively mild lights. So there's no thermal throttling back that you need to be worried about in terms of power. And it comes with a 3-year warranty, and Exposure have an excellent reputation for sorting out problems well beyond that kind of sell-by date on the warranty. And that's why they've got such a super loyal following of fans. And also, you know, they support a lot of riders and racers as well. So, and they're really active in terms of supporting races as well, or they have been historically. But going back to that impact rating, and also, if I'm being cynical as to why Exposure didn't send me the heavier lights, the Max D and the 6-pack this time round, is I don't think this bracket is fit for heavy-duty off-road use. Arguably, it's okay for gravel and XC, and I've not had any problems with this light. This light and bracket together only weigh 222 grams. However, this bracket, I think, is, well, it's fundamentally flawed, I think. And also, I think that shoe connection on the bottom of the light it just needs to be done better. They've been doing it this way for years, and they just don't seem to have learned, which is a bit of a shame, really. Because that bracket, because that shoe there, it's just Allen key attached there, and it literally only takes a little bit of looseness before it starts spinning, and at worst, that makes it irritatingly offline, but so many times I've seen people using these lights, or my mates using these lights, and that's come loose and then shaken apart, and they've either lost the bolt, or it's gradually rounded out over time, or they just need to keep retightening it over and over again. I mean, the answer is, I suppose, get some Loctite in there, but it'd just be nice, if Exposure insist on keeping using this shoe, I better just check, actually, there isn't any Loctite on it. No, nothing, no kind of fixing paste or anything on there. No threading agent, isn't it? Thread agent? Yeah, thread lock. That's what you call it, isn't it? So that's literally, that little heel there is literally an ink. So that little shoe there is literally an Achilles heel in itself. But also, I mean, this is marginally better than the old one because it now uses a two-piece design with this little jigsaw sort of junction here, which means it doesn't snap like the old Pinder bracket used to. But on the other hand, it's a right faff to use. I mean, it's fine kind of done here in the calmness, lols, of my workshop, when you're not under pressure. But trying to fit that, if you're late to a ride or something like that, that is a real faff to fit. And then you have to get the rubber you have to get the rubber band inside it as well. But also, it's very narrow. You need to do it up really, really tight. And they're slightly radiused, but I'm still nervous about the amount of pressure that puts around a carbon bar right next to your stem as well. And also, if you don't do it up tight, it slips round, which I've seen happen so many times. And also, it's really, really vulnerable in a crash. I mean, we went through a phase about a month ago where I think every night one of my mates who was using the exposure light had a crash and the mount ended up getting damaged. A couple of times we were able to bend it back into shape. Other times we just had to, the light had to go in the pocket and they just had to come out on their helmet light. And so, I mean, the good news is you can get a GoPro mount or a GoPro onto stem plate mount or a GoPro onto stem top cap mount if you want to avoid that band-on design. But all of those still use this triangular shoe, which is, I guess, it's dead useful in a quick release sense, and that means you can leave your bracket mounted on full time, which I guess that's the advantage they're going for, and it's very light and it matches the sort of CNC machined high quality vibe. But there are so many other practical, more secure and just not as awkward to use designs that they could use instead of this. I kind of don't know why they're still persevering at it. But as always, the great thing about these reviews is we have a comment section at the end. So if you think this exposure light review has been a terrible exercise in blasphemy against a light manufacturer that can do no wrong, and I can see why so many people like exposure lights. If you've had a light that you've had for years and whenever it's had an issue with it, they've repaired it fine. Although again, you only know they repair it if you have an issue with it. But maybe I'm just being devil's advocate here. Let me know. They've been very popular and has endured as a brand for decades now, because they've always pushed technology forwards and they've always really looked after their customers, which is fantastic, and I have huge respect for that. But at a time when there's more and more affordable, really practical, high-tech, high-powered lights, I think there are more glitches with this than there should be, considering the absolutely premium price. So that's the Exposure Race 19, but I'm also testing a load of other mid-power lights with, ranging from the simple to the high-tech to the really distinctive like this outbound. And hopefully by covering a really broad range of lights, you'll be able to find the ideal ones for the kind of riding that you do. But as I've said already, it's really your feedback. As much as I've been doing lights testing for 30 years now for distributors I used to work for before I was even a professional tester, it's your feedback as well. Because not only does that broaden out the number of samples we're looking at, but it also gives a whole load of other opinions. And as I'm learning rapidly, a lot of you know a lot more about electronics and lighting than I do from a hardware point of view. I'm just a user who's gradually gained some knowledge over all these years of using different lights. I don't claim to be a specialist lighting engineer or even an electrician by any stretch of the imagination. So between all our opinions, then we can create something really, really valuable and useful, whatever lights we're talking about. So thanks for watching this one, but make sure you watch all the others, and please comment down below if you've got something to say.